Hey, here we are, live at the Foundation for the Study of Cycles. My name is Lars von Thienen, and we are talking about cycles today. Today we will talk about platinum. So we will revise the cycles which we can detect in a metal, and in this case platinum. So let's spot that. The purpose, what we're doing here is for education purposes, so there is no recommendation at all. We analyze time-based cycles with the tools and in the instruments the Foundation provides at our fingertips. So that's why I use the basic tools. We are live today, so I'm monitoring the chat section for today. So feel free to drop in your questions. Echo. This sound is crazy. So you have an echo? Cross-check, where's the echo? Yeah, sorry. That's strange. So, the echo should be gone. Well, thanks for mentioning. That's the good topic, being live. Thanks, Franz, and the colleagues. So hopefully now there should be no echo anymore. So, again, let's roll back. Thank you joining today. We are live at the Foundation for the Study of Cycles. My name is Lars von Thienen, and today we talk about platinum. So Mike, I think if you move forward, the echo should be gone now. So at least sound is fine. So it's always interesting here with that setup. But let's jump to platinum futures. In our cycle analyzer chart, I have grabbed So I'm really struggling here. So now we have sound again. So now here we have the sound. Back on. Sound is back. Yeah. For whatever changing technologies short in front. So here we have the chart of platinum right in front of us. Which what I was just referring to was making this huge up move in the past, I don't know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks with this 5% push to the upside. So we see the cyclic behavior right in front of us if we just check the price chart, but that's not what we are doing. We now have a look at the cycle analysis at the spectrum right at our right shoulder here. So we see the different peaks in that spectrum here, and for sure our statistics. So the first one, which is interesting, and I think which is a prominent peak, which really stands out in the spectrum. So let's start here, is a peak 134 days. So we have several reasons for picking that daily cycle. You see from an amplitude perspective, it's quite high, not as high as here, but we have a very nice separation to the right and to the left, so which means we have a sharp separated peak in the spectrum. And if we look at the data also, in addition, specifically the stability score, which is above 0.5, which is good, and you see also from the ranking score, it's ranked as number 3. So this is the one I would spot first here. So there are some other cyclic tops here in the spectrum, which are, so here that's not as easy to spot. So those longer term cycles I would probably not choose for prediction, because the separation to the right, so if we just would look at this possible cycle here with a length of 200 something days, the separation to the right is not as we need it. And also here the separation to the left is not as perfect. So here this is not really usable for cycle projection. If we then move closer to the left, I mean, I explained here the 131. So here we have another one, which, yeah, those three. So this is too short here, the 36 day cycle. So then we have 78 or 93. So those three would qualify. So we need to discuss this a little bit more if we go into the details here. So those three could be used for further processing. So let's also check those in the spectrum, right? So let's check it here. So we have the 78 and the 93, yeah, those two, which I just highlighted here, also selected from a ranking perspective. So our ranking algorithm would pick them, and we see the stability score is also above 0.5, which is good. So that qualifies those two. We cannot really differentiate which is better for protection, so we should use those two. Finally, the one at the top, that's too short for me. So that's a very short cycle, which is just changing direction every 15 trading days, every 2 or 3 weeks. And the stability score is below 0.5, so I would ignore that cycle due to those two reasons. So this leaves us with 3 cycles, 78, 93, and 134. I think that's the most important part here, which I want to explain, because why choosing specific cycles is the most important learning we want to put across here. So let's get back to those 3 now. So let's start step by step. Let's select the 134 days cycle first. So this is how it looks like putting that on a chart, and it seems like it's off, but the other main swings, mainly the bigger swings in the price chart, are covered by that. We could also have a look if we individually zoom in at the stability scoring. That's what we see here at the bottom. So that's just the view on the stability. That's what I said here, that cycle is off, but you can see this directly here in the stability correlation, where we have a look at the light blue and the red cycle line. So in the recent past, so therefore we need to be careful, in the recent past, the 2 bottom projection have been on. So here we have a shift, but if you then look in the other swings going even more back into the past, even here until 2021, this cycle has a very stable historical performance and alignment between the price movement and this theoretical cycle. So therefore that qualifies as an interesting cycle. Let's also use the 93-day cycle, also with this stability scoring. Let's zoom in here. So here even the stability is looking much better than the 134-day cycle. So not perfect in the past, but if we see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 repetitions of that cycle, they are almost perfect. Yeah, so that cycle on its own, so the 93-day cycle is close to topping. And the other individual cycle we talked about is the 78 days cycle. So let's put this one on, and let's also cross-check the 78 days and the stability on that cycle, which is now plotted here. Yeah, and I mean, that's the reason why we've chosen that cycle. Also a very good stable cycle, so which means we have low variation. And if you would do a zigzag connection between those cyclic plots, I think they would look quite nice. So now we can start to combine those 3 cycles and build one composite out of them. So 78, 93, and 134. And you see how they stack up here. So that's another very interesting observation. Let's do this step by step again. So I will deselect them first. And I would like that you observe the area here around, let's June, yeah, so where the cursor right is. So have a close look here when I go now through the activation of those 3 cycles. So let's start with 78. You see the first top comes in here, so I will now add the second 93-day cycles, and you will see it's quite the same timing alignment, yeah? So 78 here, 93 here. So if you stack them up, there's no shift in the cyclic top, which is quite interesting, because it's not only that we have those 3 cycles are most important from a dominant cycle perspective, as I've explained just before, why we pick those cycles for specific reasons. And now if we build our composite, it's interesting to see what happens with the next projected turning point of those 3 cycles. So they could be at completely different points in time, or at least for those 2 now, they fall into the same timing window. So even though different cycle length, their topping projection falls into the same time window, which is close in front of us, right? So let's do the same now. Switch off. Let's observe that monitoring here period. Let's jump now to the 134 days, and you see it's topping at the same point in time as the other ones. Yeah, so that's quite an interesting point to observe here. So let's switch back and let's activate now all 3. So here now we have a real cycles within cycles alignment from a timing perspective. So not only did we pick those 3 cycles on purpose by choosing our underlying framework, which cycles to pick. So this is a quite objective procedure, what we go through, kind of checklist. What is the cycle status? What is the stability? What is the features of that cycle? How does it look like in the spectrum? Is it separated? So does it qualify for projection? Do we have a stable alignment of that cycle? So this on its own is important. So that's why we came up with those 3. Now, looking where those cycles are in the current situation is even more interesting, because all project the topping projection occurring close to within the next 2-3 weeks, which is even more interesting if we build that composite. So that's why also that topping window here really stands out. And if we zoom in and even make this a larger picture here, you see this top is an outstanding top here, as 3 cycles now come into alignment to form that top, right? So that's the important projection we get here from those 3 cycles, which, if we see that action following then into late July, early August, would form now possible 6 weeks of downward momentum from a cyclic point of view to expect in Platinum. As you know, we should always take the price action also using technical analysis. I will now insert the cyclic RSI indicator using those length settings from what we see here, the shortest dominant cycle we have picked for this composite, which is 78 days. So using that length as an input for our cyclic optimized RSI indicator brings us here to this signal. And if we have a closer look on where that signal is here, you see it's close to generating a technical buy signal also on the chart, which has not happened yet. Yeah? So there might be some room to the upside, but both now align. So from a price perspective, we are close to generating a possible sell signal. And from the cyclic timing perspective, we are also in a time window where a possible top from a cyclic timing perspective could happen, and not just 1-3 cycles are pointing to a cyclic timing top here. So that's a quite fascinating picture we arrive by analyzing that situation. And if I look into the chart section, Franz, you also pointed out that the cycle with a length of 36 would be quite interesting. So why not? Let's add that. So let's zoom out here. So I gave you some reasons not to include that cycles, right? So the stability score is quite low. I don't really like those shorter cycles. But let's see if let's bring that in also into the mix, right? So let's put that cycle on top. So here, and I will now switch it on and off closely. So yeah, monitor that area here. So this is with this 36-day cycle. This is without. Without. So it does not really give a clearer picture. It just means we are in this kind of topping range here, which that cycle would give us anyhow. And again, if I turn that on, the window is more or less the same. So we are now at the earliest point of that topping window, but this stretches out into maybe mid-June, later June, and then into the period of August. So therefore, I would say I would not rely on that short-term cycle on its own. So if we zoom out, you see that the first top has just arrived. So let's move out that here. So we have passed beyond that first topping, which is, well, it's quite interesting. This is in alignment with the first turn of the cyclic RSI. But this is now pure speculation, we have a first down move, maybe then another short up move here based on the short-term cycle, which could lead to a divergence between price and the indicator here. So maybe, but as said, pure speculation. If we make a secondary high here, maybe in 1 or 2 weeks, and which is then not confirmed by the CRSI, so we might receive a divergence between technical indicator and price, which arrives then exactly as the second top here of that short-term cycle, which could fall then into a late, here, so which will be the perfect condition from a technical perspective. So waiting here for another short up move, which then will show us a divergence on the technical indicator. And from these 3 longer term cycles, they all have then rolled over to the downside anyhow, so at that point in time. So this would be even a closer look if we tune in that shorter cycle here, Franz. So that's what you mentioned. I try to explain what it means with or without that cycle. And also maybe if you're expecting that bottom in August, I mean, that would fall into the same cyclic situation we see here in Palladium. Yeah, so I think that's the main message I wanted to bring across today. So we see the same behavior in Palladium, so it's not a different situation, so we don't need to have a specific view on that. So that's it for today. I think we have a clear outline what, from a timing point of view, Palladium might look like, so we need to follow that up. My main purpose of that session, and please keep that in mind, is not a real forecast. The main reason why we are here and why I am here is how to read cycle analysis spectrum. What are the reasons to pick a specific cycle from a spectrum, and what are the reasons not to pick a specific cycle from a spectrum, and how to read the statistics we provide you from the Foundation for the Study of Cycles if you're working with this kind of tools. So therefore, a forecast requires much more to take into account. That's very simplistic, but these are the basic steps you need to derive, you need to apply when you are doing cycle analysis with these kinds of assets. So that's why I always want to run this 20 minutes, 30 minutes to be sure that the basic principles are understood, and doing this live with some real assets is more interesting than having always the same procedure. So thank you for joining me today. Leave some comments down below here. I know you all want to see different symbols here. So just leave a comment which symbol you're most interested in, and I will check back on that. And maybe then next Monday. By the way, next Monday we are in New York, so maybe we can meet and talk in New York. And not only that, we will have a huge relaunch with new features on the cycle analyzer coming up after the conference anyhow. So be prepared for a lot of new features in our cycle scanner anyhow the coming week and the week after. So that's it for today. Have a nice week. See you next week in New York. Otherwise here on the channel. Bye. Stay safe.